In this short video, I'll be showing how clearMDM can be used to consolidate master records within a multi-org Salesforce environment. In such a scenario, multiple Salesforce orgs may be implemented across a business through acquisition, due to material process differences across departments or regions, or to enable scaling beyond the platform limits, execution limits, and so forth applied to a single Salesforce org. Before I get to the actual demonstration, it's worth taking a brief moment to describe the high-level flow of a multi-org consolidation architecture. The diagram provides an illustrative example. Starting from the left-hand side, we can see two source orgs. These are both independent Salesforce orgs that contain local master records for person accounts that would typically represent customers in a B2C environment or indeed citizens in a public sector case. Each source org supports the creation and modification of its own subset of the global master record dataset. Each source org in that sense has an unconstrained local view. To deliver a consolidated view, perhaps in response to reporting, marketing, support, drivers, requires that the master records are synchronized to a central point, the master org. In the example scenario, we can see that Salesforce to Salesforce is implemented to support two-way data synchronization. Salesforce to Salesforce is a standard platform function, configurable by administrators via clicks, not code. The intended use cases for Salesforce to Salesforce typically relate to data sharing with partners, leads, opportunities, etc. However, the functionality is equally applicable to data sharing within a multi-org environment and has the benefit, of course, of being a standard platform capability and not requiring a third-party data integration technology. With the recent introduction of Lightning Connect, an alternative platform technology to consider here is the Salesforce adapter for Lightning Connect. With this approach, the data storage overhead of data synchronization is avoided as the data is queried from the source org on demand. Lightning Connect does incur an additional license cost, however. With Salesforce to Salesforce, the data is synchronized in near real time between the source orgs and the master org, creating and modifying master org records in response to local source org record changes. Once the source org records are synchronized to the master org, MDM operations can be applied to standardize data, match records, match records, and to consolidate and aggregate related transactional data. The outcome of such operations is the single customer view or 360-degree view, from which reporting and analytics functions can draw insight, segmentation based on the full broad view of the customer or the citizen perhaps, and operational functions such as support, marketing, relationship management are provided with a clean, deduplicated set of master records enriched with the complete organizational view. Okay, I'll now move on from the theoretical aspects and show some of the process in action. For the demonstration, we have two Salesforce orgs. We have a master org, which has the clearMDM product installed, and we have a source org, which does not have the clearMDM product installed. So to start with, we'll take a look at the Salesforce to Salesforce connectivity. So in the source org, we have a predefined connection to the master org. If we open up that connection and look at the configuration here, you can see that in the source org, we are publishing the account object. It's possible to publish the standard objects one would expect, as well as any custom objects that are defined within this source org. But here we simply have the account object, and if we edit that publication, we can see the fields that are being published here, so we can selectively define individual fields that are available for publication. So perhaps for the sake of example, if we add perhaps industry as a newly published field, if we now move across to the master org and look at the same connection within this environment, here we can immediately see that the connection name is different. It relates to the source org, and you can see here that we're subscribing to the account object, and if we edit that subscription, we can see straight away that we're required to map the right fields to from the publication to the specific fields of relevance within the master org. And because it's a standard object here, it's very convenient to use the auto map feature. But you can see there that industry has appeared. We haven't mapped that as yet because I simply added that a moment ago. So we add that mapping and we can save the mapping there. A point to note here is that so far we've been looking at the configuration of a one-way data synchronization from the source org to the master org. If we wish to implement two-way data synchronization, then we could simply publish the account object from the master org and then subscribe to it back in the source org. So it's very simple and very configurable in respect to how the data synchronization is configured between the two Salesforce orgs. And of course, within the master org, we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the number is, connections defined out to different Salesforce orgs within the environment. Moving away from the configuration of the Salesforce to Salesforce connectivity, now move back to the source org. We'll follow the process of a new record being created and synchronized across to the master org. So I'm going to create a brand new account record. Give this just the basic details. Finally, a country. So a very, very basic account record. So we save that in the source org. We can see that it's not shared automatically. In this case, we'll have to manually share it. However, it is possible to set up and to implement an automated sharing of new records. Of course, once the sharing is established, any changes will automatically synchronize. But the initial sharing needs to be automated through a custom mechanism, or indeed manual sharing is there by default. So we're going to manually share the World Tech account from the source org up to the master org. So we can see when the act of manually sharing the record creates a external sharing record here, and the initial status of that record is pending to start with. So if we just refresh the page, and we can see the status changes to active, so we know the record has been successfully synchronized. So we now move across to the master org, then we do a search for World Tech. We find that we have two records. We have a World Tech Limited that may have existed previously, but we also have World Tech, which is the source record that has been synchronized across to the master org. So here we're able to see the same kind of information message that this account was externally shared. It was received from org1 via Salesforce to Salesforce. So any changes that take place within this source org in regards to this record will be synchronized across to the master org copy of the record. Before we can start applying MDM operations to this record, first of all we need to normalize or standardize the data to produce a blocking key or a matching key. So here we have exactly that available and displayed in the normalization information section. I won't get into the detail of normalization at this point. But if we go back to the search for World Tech, we can also see there's a pre-existing record in the master org for World Tech Limited. This may have been synchronized from a different Salesforce org using Salesforce to Salesforce connectivity, or indeed any other data integration technology, or it could simply have been a record entered directly into this environment. So you can see it looks very similar to the record that was synchronized across. So we click on Find Matches, and we'll do a real-time matching for this particular record, and we can see immediately that it's picked up the new record that was synchronized across. You can see it has a 74% matching score, which compares favorably to our match score threshold percentage of 65% that's been defined for the account object. So if we're comfortable that these two records are a match, we can save the match record group, and if we open up that group, we can see that although the 74% was high enough to indicate a match, it was insufficiently high to become an auto-accepted match. So because it sits between 65 and perhaps 85% is the configured auto-accept threshold, because this 74 is in between those two values, it sits at a candidate status and will require manual intervention to steward this particular match. From here, we're also able to take a look at how the match score was calculated, so we can see the different fields that took place, the field values that constituent parts of the matching process, and the different score calculations that have taken us to the 74% calculation. I should note at this stage that the steps that we're seeing here are the manual functions of clearMDM. All of the matching and the merging and the manual elements of the demonstration would more typically be automated fully and seamless in that sense. So the Salesforce to Salesforce connectivity and sharing of the records initially would be automated. The matching and so forth would also be automated. So we move back to the matched record group page. It's from here we're able to merge the two records. So if we open the merge page, we can see actually we have World Tech Limited, and then we have World Tech, which was the synchronized record. It may be the case that I prefer the postcode on World Tech. I may think that the email address is perhaps, the website is perhaps more accurate from that particular data source also. So we'll pick those field values from that record, and then we'll merge the records. Once the merge operation has completed, if we view the master record, you can see that World Tech Limited was the master record, was selected as the master record there. And if we open up the MDM information section, we can see it's a merge. This record is now a merge master. We can also see there that it is the master record for the World Tech record. So World Tech still exists as a record within the system and is linked to this master record, and we can view any linked source records or source accounts through this particular related list. So if we open up the World Tech record, you can see it's a merged source record, and we can see the master account is World Tech Limited. So what we're able to do is use the sharing model of the Salesforce platform to selectively hide perhaps the merged source records or any records that we don't view to be master records. So from an operational perspective or a reporting perspective, any records that aren't master records simply wouldn't be visible. So what we've been able to see there is a very simple example of records being created in a source org, being synchronized to a master org, being manually matched and then merged to provide a master record linked to the source record. So from a single customer view perspective, that very basic mechanic is typically sufficient in terms of being able to bring records together and identify a master record, relate the master record to the source records that it represents, and selectively bring attributes from the source records up to the master record to provide an enriched or a more complete, more broad view at the master record level. clearMDM will also support the ability to reparent any transactional data. Salesforce to Salesforce would be a good technology choice for bringing transactional details from the source org across to the master org, whether that be the transactional data may represent purchase transactions, interactions, support cases, whatever it may be that is being recorded or managed against the master records. All of that transactional detail can be moved across to the master record, and as the merging operation takes place, it's possible to reparent the transactional detail from source records to the master records to provide that 360-degree view and to enable aggregation of that data to build and develop KPIs that were otherwise very difficult to do in the sense of being able to address a consolidated picture of the data. This marks the end of the demonstration. For further information in regard to clearMDM or multi-org consolidation via Salesforce to Salesforce, please do get in contact via clearmdm.com. Thank you.